When presented with the question, if you were a newly elected member of Congress, what issue would be your first priority? Our minds immediately went to the environment. Protecting, conserving, and restoring our environment is one of the most, if not the most, important issue facing our nation and the globe right now. According to the United Nations Environment Program, in the year 2019, the global temperature was at 1.1 degrees Celsius above the pre-industrial period. 30% of the world's population was experiencing deadly heat waves at least 20 days out of the year. And global greenhouse gas emissions reached unprecedented levels at 59.1 gigatons. Our environment is the air we breathe, the water we drink, and the land we live on. But its health is rapidly declining at incomprehensible levels.
Our planet will face enormous and irreversible damage.
Our lives and jobs are being affected. Please, let's come together as a country and do something about it.
The question remains, how can we save our planet in the face of such disaster without getting lost in the often overwhelming statistics? Here at Lewis High School in Springfield, Virginia, Mrs. Clausen and her IB environmental students attempt to answer that question by exploring what they individually can do to help protect the environment.
I try to really frame environmental science here at Lewis as like, what can you do? That we're all part of this like world community and we're also part of our local community. We should all be able to do something, because otherwise it does start to feel like the doomsday feeling of, climate change is happening and it's going to affect us, but actually focusing on, I can do something, I can help other people, I can help my surroundings. I like to frame it that way.
I think it teaches a lot about things that we normally wouldn't think about or even feel is important in our lives. I think the unit that we're learning about right now about food and carbon footprint, I think it's something that really puts my perspective on a larger view that I normally wouldn't do on a daily basis, especially what I eat, simple things such as showering. I think that's really important for people to learn and understand how it's important, even if it doesn't affect us directly.
We did this thing where we were meant to track our waste for a period of time. I think it was a week. And so over the course of that week, we would take photos and stuff of that, of the trash we used. And I also did a step further when I was taking care. So in the spring, I was taking care of my plants. So I would also take pictures of the bottles that I used and whether or not they're finished and the fertilizer and stuff like that. And then we wrote an analysis on that trash that we had. And so through my analysis, I was able to deduct that some of the practices I was using to take care of my plants weren't the most sustainable.
Mrs. Clausen and her students aren't the only ones trying to make an impact on the environment. The Lewis High School Green Team also works diligently to make their school a greener place. They beautify our outdoor classroom spaces, as well as plant herbs to be sold in the plant sale, which raises money for environmental causes. We talked with environmental professionals from the Northern Virginia area who partner with schools and students to discuss the impact hands-on environmental education experiences can have.
So I really like hands-on. I'm like a tactile kind of person. I need to touch something or feel it or see it before I can even understand it or experience it. So that's why we like programs like the planting that we did here with Lewis students, where the students got to come out and actually touch the dirt, touch the plants, install the plants, and then we could talk about why were those plants important.
Well, I think having a hands-on experience can sometimes make the issue of environmental protection seem a little more local in a way. We hear a lot about climate change and these big global problems, and even a well-informed citizen can often just throw their hands up because it seems like it's something that's too big for any one person to really be able to help. But then when you see that, in fact, the little stream in your backyard or in your neighborhood actually is a thriving ecosystem, and there's a lot of stuff living in there, and the runoff from your individual property has a pretty big effect on the health of that stream. I think that's a way to sort of shrink down the issue of environmental protection.
Currently, only 2 states have environmental education as part of their graduation requirements, and Virginia is not one of them. But if every school across the nation had an environmental education program like the one at Lewis, there is no telling what impact students in those classes could have. Reaching consensus, however, especially on environmental issues, is never easy, and building up programs like these is a costly and timely endeavor. Is the possible impact they could have really worth the cost? Local legislator Supervisor Gross, Vice Chair of the Environment Committee on the Fairfax Board of Supervisors, shares her perspective on this topic.
We need to make some of our environmental initiatives easy enough for the ordinary citizen to do. We can get very technical on the other side, do all the science. Got to be good science, got to have science and believe in that science. But we'll leave the science to the scientists. Let's look at what we can actually do on the ground.
Our world's environment is at risk like it never has been before. It's time we all start learning how to save the planet.
I am learning to save the planet.
I'm learning to save the planet.
I am learning to save the planet.
I am learning to save the planet.
I am learning to save our planet.